Some good news, some interesting news. The largest educators union just voted to cut ties with the Apartheid Defense League. That's right. Educators Union rejects Anti-Defamation League and cuts ties. The Anti-Defamation League has been a ubiquitous presence in U.S. schools for 40 years, pushing curriculum, direct programming, and teacher training into K through 12 schools and increasingly into universities, often over the objections of students, parents, and educators. Now, the 3 million member National Education Association, the largest coalition of unions, technically it's an umbrella organization that comprises of numerous teachers unions. So it's the largest union in the nation, is officially cutting ties with the ADL. In the July 6th vote, the NEA's 7,000 member representative assembly cut all ties with the ADL. The body approved a measure that the NEA will not use, endorse, or publicize materials from the Anti-Defamation League, such as its curricular materials or statistics. The reasoning: despite its reputation as a civil rights organization, the ADL is not the social justice educational partner it claims to be. This is the truth. Okay? This is the truth. It is not. It bills itself as a civil rights organization. The ADL bills itself as a civil rights organization. But it has actually never been a true civil rights organization, and the only real civil rights and anti-bigotry initiatives that they engage with, they have done to either directly use anti-Semitism as a weapon against critics of Israel, or the other types of actual database research that they do, they use to legitimize themselves as a civil rights organization. So at the point where it actually matters, they will then defend the nation state of Israel. An apartheid state, mind you, an apartheid state that is considered an apartheid state by virtually every human rights organization on the planet, including the ICJ, including the United Nations at this point. Every single instrument of justice, every single international human rights organization has openly declared Israel what it actually is, an apartheid state. And if this quote-unquote civil rights organization's sole purpose is to defend this Jewish ethno-religious apartheid regime that is currently conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign in broad daylight, a live-streamed child Holocaust, it is understandable that reputable institutions, specifically involved in educating the youth, educating the next generation, would want nothing to do with that. That makes total fucking sense. I'm shocked that it took this long, but I'm glad, and I will take this. Okay? Naturally, the ADL responded with accusing the NEA of, you guessed it, anti-Semitism. It is now anti-Semitic to just simply not want to work with the ADL. Must have missed that in the IHRA speech guidelines. The ADL is horrible for lots of reasons, but just to add one more that gets overlooked, when you actually patch together its previous statements, Greenblatt's criteria for acceptable Palestine advocacy that doesn't constitute anti-Semitism is literally just protesting Hamas. According to Greenblatt, a Palestinian born in Jerusalem, living in a home that's been in his family for generations, denying that said home is the Jewish homeland is per se racism. Seriously, you can ask him. He'll evade the details, but eventually he'll say a version of this. Under the ADL's rubric, that opposition to Zionist ideology is per se a form of racial hatred. Palestinians' mere existence and refusal to accept third-class status in their place of birth is in and of itself a form of prejudice. I'm not sure this makes a lot of sense. Using the word Holocaust to attack what Israel is doing, well, brother, you might be late to the game, but I think you need to catch up. What Israel is doing is a live modern version of the Holocaust. What Israel is doing to the Palestinians is a live streamed Holocaust, primarily of children, women and children. Okay? Zionism is a racist fascist ideology. It is an ethno-religious supremacist ideology that requires the extermination of the indigenous population, the constant othering and dehumanization of all Palestinians, Christian and Muslim alike, and all Arabs in general. It's a monolithization of all Arabs in the region, and a constant othering and constant extermination of this outgroup. Okay? Yes. Welcome to the fucking real world. Many more people are finally coming to this recognition. There is no more of this like, well, the Holocaust is unique. How dare you compare it to what the Jewish people are doing, what the Jewish state is doing? It doesn't work that way. It was never a sincere way to deflect criticism away, but it certainly is not one that actually reaches it's certainly not one that reaches the masses any longer. Okay? It's also funny to come in here to my community and present this as a naysayer, because this is a place where I have consistently advocated for Palestinian emancipation and have been unyielding in spite of the numerous attacks to both my character, to my bottom line, to my community, to my friends, and yet I have never shied away from saying the truth, and have been always consistent on this. Okay? Not only that, but also, for the first time in my lifetime, I am actually watching the broader public sentiment shift in my direction as well, in real time. Roger Waters, Pink Floyd's super cool frontman, of course, is in support of Palestine Action. In the UK, Palestine Action recently was prescribed as a terrorist organization akin to ISIS. So if you are like an 80-year-old woman, 83-year-old teacher or a nurse, and you came out in support of Palestine Action, you can be imprisoned for approximately, hold on, my banner is busted again. Great stuff. Hold on. Gonna fix that real quick. You can go to prison for 14 years, as though you have openly and actively defended ISIS. No such litigation exists, of course, for those who have conducted war crimes by going in and working with a foreign military, the Israeli military, and engaged in heinous actions, war crimes. You can be a British citizen that goes to Israel, joins the Israeli occupying forces, kills a bunch of children, and then you can freely come back to the UK without even an ounce of scrutiny. But God forbid you actually support people, even with your words, that are engaging in direct action against the British state for its complicity in these genocidal war crimes that Israel is committing, that the UK is also committing. Then you go to prison, potentially for 14 years. It is completely unacceptable. It is ridiculous. And people are not putting up with this anymore. And this kind of censorship regime, unironically, doesn't help. It only hurts. And it makes... Wait, what? This guy actually went, okay, then I'll sub. All right, respect. The suffragettes literally planted bombs. UK Parliament doing a ceremony to honor them right before banning Palestine Action. Yeah. This is how it's always been, though. The powerful institutions will first avoid you, deny you, will ridicule you, okay? Then they'll prosecute you to try and stop you. And then when you're still an undeniable force, especially because you have that moral clarity, okay, eventually they recognize you and history remembers you as a heroic figure that did the right thing. That's it. And given the accelerated time frame of action and reaction nowadays, where things rapidly move through the media cycle and are instantly consumed, the time frame for going from a villain in society to a heroic figure is getting shorter as well. So you can actually experience that in your own lifetime. It's crazy. So if you are pro-Palestine, you have moral clarity and you have popular support. And that is why I have always stated, no matter how horrible things look, no matter how many hurdles governments might put in front of you, your cause is just, and you should always keep up the pressure. And eventually, we will be able to move and change society. You can never give up on maintaining revolutionary optimism. You cannot succumb to nihilism for a million different reasons, but especially spite. If you can't find any real reason to stop yourself from succumbing to nihilism, think about your enemies. They want you to be nihilistic. They want you to give up. Okay? Let's say you're suicidal. Are you really going to end your life before you experience the end of the Israeli apartheid? Really? Can't do that. You can't surrender. Never kill yourself. We have a job. We have a goal. We have a mission. You cannot let the apartheid state of Israel outlive you. Okay? That's one way to look at it. I would have succumbed to nihilism so long ago if it weren't for you and your commentary. No joke, no lie. Good. That's what I try to do. Okay, so getting back into it. Roger Waters is, of course, a notorious critic of Israel, a notorious anti-fascist, and therefore the Apartheid Defense League hates him. A lot of Jewish advocacy groups that claim to defend Jews and claim to attack anti-Semites, but simply use all of that space to criticize those who dare become critics of the state of Israel, hate Roger Waters. His intentional support of Palestine action prescribed as a terrorist organization in the UK is just the latest example of Waters' long history of anti-Semitic and anti-Israel rhetoric. Read more about Waters here. I'm not going to do that, obviously. Fuck the ADL. Allowing the ADL to determine what constitutes anti-Semitism would be like allowing the fossil fuel industry to determine what constitutes climate change, said NEA delegate Stephen Siegel from the assembly floor. Amazing things are happening. Okay? Amazing things are happening. I went on a date with an Israeli guy once, and he basically spent the whole time ranting about how Roger Waters was basically Hitler too. It's so funny because, like, Israel is a right-wing project. It's a right-wing institution. So if you were to remove, like, the real anti-Semitism from the equation for a moment, because that is a cynical shield that many Israel defenders apply willingly, like, it's no different than white Christian guys constantly talking about there's a war against Christmas. Okay? Like, it's not any different than perceived victimhood, like endless perceived victimhood and constant fucking crying and whining and then demanding that you get fired from your fucking job. That's all this is.